Hi! When tying off your knots on the last string, what method do you use? Well, I was curious, so I posted a poll on my channel this week and I asked some of my colleagues at IART this question. So here are the 5 methods and the results. Coming in at number 1 at 40% was increase the tension by a number of pounds. And when I got the answers from the people that participated, it ranged from 3 to 5 pounds. Number 2 at 35%, increase the tension by a percentage. And the percentages ranged from 10 to 20%, but most said 10%. Coming in at number 3 was at 22%, was to keep the same tension on that last string. Number 4 at 1%, increase the tension and use an awl to lock the string. And number 5 at 1% was other. Although there's no right or wrong way to tie off the last main or cross string, here are the positions of these 2 stringing organizations on this topic. Alright, so here are the 2 stringing organizations that I'm a member of, the USRSA, United States Racquet Stringers Association, and IART, the International Alliance of Racquet Technicians. So I thought it'd be interesting to share their position on this topic. And so you can see that both do not recommend increasing the tension on that last string. This next item here is because the outside strings are shorter, there's no need to increase the tension, and they both share that same view. Next, we have the outside tie-off strings do not affect the string bed's center strings, in other words, a sweet spot. And both organizations did mention that you have no business hitting near the perimeter or near the frame anyway. All right, so let's take a look at some additional notes, and we'll start with the USRSA. It's mentioned that the mishits will be less jarring if the outer strings are not tensioned higher than the other strings. And I have an interesting story that I'll share with you a little later about a touring pro that I strung for at an ATP event related to this. The second thing is using an awl to pull up the slack before tying a knot is an unnecessary procedure that could damage the anchor string. And I would agree with this. However, I do know some stringers that use this technique that know what they're doing. So you really have to make sure that your technique is sound before using this technique. And finally, stringers who increase the tension should be at the most 5 pounds. All right, so now let's take a look at the IART. Ron Racci is a key member of the Wilson design team, and he provided insights that inform IART and explained the reasoning listed above. He also mentioned that stringers, for whatever reason, believe that this is necessary, meaning that the tension should be increased. So when designing our machines, we include a knot button. However, it's ultimately up to the stringer whether or not to use it. Now that I've shared similar positions of the USRSA and IART, here's my 3 cents on increasing the tension of the last string when tying off. 1. If you increase the tension, keep your percentage at 10% or 5 pounds or less. Pulling at a higher tension in these areas of the frame when pulling the last string, not only is it shorter, but the angle of the pull places more stress on the grommet and the frame. For my stringing, I actually use 5 pounds on my machine, and that's what I set mine at. Now, speaking about 5 pounds and that player that I mentioned earlier, there was a player that requested that I actually string the outer mains lower. So what he wanted was the second to the last string to be strung 5 pounds lower, and the last string on all 4 sides to be 10 pounds lower than the reference tension. I thought that was pretty interesting because what he wanted to do was create a larger sweet spot. So if he did hit off center, it actually had a little bit more give. Number 2, keep all outer strings consistent. In other words, when starting your crosses, I don't recommend using a starting knot in which tension is pulled on a string that is secured by a knot. This will result in a tighter top cross compared to a bottom cross. And number 3, string 2-piece for consistency. However, if you string a natural 1-piece or an around the world, tie off both ends of the string as mains or crosses. Now, if you want to learn more about how to do this, check out my 2 videos, Install Crosses Faster and Reduce Friction, and Around the World with a Twist. Also, if you want to know the 3 knots that I use and why, watch my video, 3 Top Tie-Off Knots. Now that we've talked about tie-off tension techniques, I'll demonstrate a tip for creating a tie-off hole in 2 practical situations when tying off the last string. Most stringers agree that it's best to tie off a polyester string on a polyester in a hybrid setup. This practice is used when natural gut or nylon are the main strings and polyester is the cross string. Here's the rationale behind this common practice. 1. When dealing with a thinner gauge polyester cross, this can cause the knot to get sucked into the grommet barrel, putting more stress on the softer anchor string. 2. Also, when tying off in a larger grommet hole, stringers can sometimes cinch the knot too tightly, causing even more stress. And number 3, since natural gut stretches and contracts more than polyester strings, it can cause more friction between them. Here I have a racket that I want to create a tie-off hole where it'll allow me to tie off the polyester on the polyester, and this is in a cross string. So this is another racket that has a similar string pattern, and you can see on this racket that the natural tie-off hole is this one right here. But what I'm going to do is enlarge this hole right here. It's a second cross to allow me to tie off on this string instead of on the main string, which right now is a synthetic gut. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and install the first 3 crosses. I always start backwards, meaning that I start from the 3rd cross, and then I'm going to work my way backwards to the 2nd and then to the 1st. But before I put the string into the 2nd hole, I need to enlarge it, because what I want to do is prepare that hole before I put this string in, and then eventually I'll tie off on this 2nd cross. So I have an awl here. You want to use a straight awl, and you want something with a nice tapered tip. I have a chapstick that I'm going to use as lubricant. So I'm just going to get enough on there, about 1 inch up the tip of the awl. And I just need enough to coat it. And this is mainly so that the awl can go into the hole easily. And it'll also lubricate the wall of the grommet barrel so that when I insert the 2nd string, it'll allow it to go in more freely. Now when I'm putting this all through the hole, you really have to make sure that 1, you're not going to poke the string that's crossing over the hole, and 2, you want to make sure that you angle the tip as you insert the awl so that you don't stab the string right here. So I'm going to go ahead and place the awl in the hole from the outside of the frame, and I'm just going to make sure that in order to make sure I don't stab that string, I'm just going to push it down a little bit so that it'll allow the awl to go right above it. So I'm going to go ahead and just insert the awl. Oh, it's reaching the next string, so I'm just going to make sure it's not going to touch that either. But I'm going to just enlarge the hole by inserting the awl, and I'm turning it. And what I'm going to do is just kind of leave it there for a couple of minutes. All right, so it's been a couple of minutes. I'm going to go ahead and take out the awl, and I'm going to go ahead and now install that 2nd cross. Like I mentioned, I'm working my way backwards. And this is in that video, Install Crosses Faster and Reduce Friction. So you want to check that out, and the reason why I'm doing it this way. And now I'm going to come back to the 1st cross on the top here. Now you're going to see me clamp this string with my string clamp instead of a starting clamp. And the reason that I can do that is because of the 360-degree string clamp rail. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure I have enough string to reach the tension head. All right, so what I'm going to do is tension this 2nd cross. going to go ahead and tension this third cross also before I tie off, before I retension that first string, and then tie it off on that second cross string. All right, so now the clamp is free where I can move it easily and clamp it here. So I'm going to go ahead and use the knot function. I'm going to 5 pounds on mine, and I'll go ahead and tension the string. All right, so normally this would be the tie-off hole here, like the other racket that I had here, but I'm going to go ahead and come in here, and I did enlarge it already, so hopefully it's still large enough to get this string in. Oh, there we go, went right in there, so that was pretty easy. And on the outside of the frame, I'm making sure that I'm not crossing over the string that's already there. So I have a space here. I can go ahead and tie my usual knot right here. The second practical situation for creating a tie-off hole is when you want to reduce string run or tension loss on the last string. So string run refers to the length of string that runs outside of the grommet strip, and it starts from where it exits the grommet on the last string, like this one right here, and then it goes up to where it's going to be tied off. So if you look on the outside of the grommet strip, you can see that that string right there is about 1 inch long, and that's the string one right there. Now these do vary, and here's an example of a very short string run. So on this racket, you'll see that this is the last, or this is the cross here. This is the cross string, the first cross, and this is the knot right there. So this string run is very short. It's only less than 1/2 inch. So I'll try and aim it right there. So it's right there. So it's very short. It's that distance right there. Now there's some rackets that this string run is more evident than others. So take for example this Wilson 6195, and I'll point out 3 areas in this frame, and I already marked it. So if you take a look at this string run, so that's normal. That's about 1 inch from where it the last cross goes to its tie-off hole, and I'm sorry, where the main goes to its tie-off hole. On this next one here at the top, you'll see that this one's quite a bit longer. It's about 1.5 inches. So this is where the first cross goes up to its tie-off hole there. Now, if you take a look at this one, this is where it gets a little extreme. So you can see that. That's about 2.5 inches of string run, not to mention all those strings that are crowding each other. So you can see those 3 layers of strings that are just stacked on top of each other. So it does start to look a little bit messy. So by creating a tie-off hole, you'll be able to eliminate the string run and make it look a lot cleaner. And I'll be showing you that after I restring this racket. As far as tension loss, because of the longer length of string that it goes from the last, in this case, last cross to its tie-off, there is a better chance that this long length of string, you can lose some of the tension when trying to cinch up the knot, because there's more slack or potential of slack there, as opposed to something that's shorter like this. So when they're referring to tension loss, it's because of the length of string or length of string run on the outside of the frame. Before I cut these strings off and enlarge the hole, I did want to show you what I plan to do. So you can see that, again, this is the knot here, and it's causing this long string run that's going from here. Well, let me turn it around. So you can see that the blue tape, that's the string run on the outside of the frame. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place the knot here, which will reduce the string run. Now the other thing is, because this string is going past a main string, which might be hard for you to see in this situation, but it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to enlarge the hole before I install the mains, and I will be using a heat gun in this application. All right, so I reached the point in the racket where the main string coming down here, this last one, is going to be tied off into the second to the last main here. But because the hole that I'm trying to create, the tie off for the cross, is going to be passing over that string, I want to make sure that I prepare this hole because I am using a heat gun before I install this last main. So what I'm going to do is take this string out. And what's different about this is, again, I'm using the heat gun. I'm still going to wax the tip of the awl, and I want to just make sure that I prepare the hole by having that in the grommet. So again, so with this technique, using the heat gun, it actually allows you to soften up the grommet barrel, allowing you to enlarge the hole even more. So I just put the chapstick lubricant in the hole so that it's already there. So I'm going to go ahead and heat the tip of the awl and for about 10 seconds. Yeah, so the tip is nice and hot there. So I'm going to go ahead and insert the awl, and always be careful not to stab the main string that's already installed. And I'm just going to let it sit there for 10 seconds or so, and then I'm going to push it in a little bit more. All right, and again, you want to make sure you're not going to stab any of the strings. So I'm going to go in a little bit further. I just want to make sure that the tip of the awl is not actually jabbing into that string. All right, so I'm going to leave the awl in for now to really set that hole and to keep that hole enlarged. All right, so we're going to come down here and just work around the awl. The reason why I like to leave the awl in, it just ensures that the hole will stay enlarged by the time you get to it. Unfortunately, it's at the end, so it will be in there for a while until you get to the end of your string job. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this up, and I'll return back to you when I reach this point of the racket. All right, so I reached the point where I do have to remove the awl. I just weaved the third to the last cross string. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the awl here. And I'm going to go ahead and tension this string. I don't quite have enough to do the one ahead at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and do these last two weaves. They will be hard weaves, so I'll use a couple of techniques that I did in another video, how to handle hard weaves. So I'll go ahead and finish these two and tie off the last tie-off knot. All right, so here we go. We're going to tie off in this tie-off hole that I created. And again, it's right here. So I want to make sure that, again, on the outside of the frame, I'm making sure that I'm not crossing over the strings that are already installed. All right, so let's take a look at the final product here. So on this racket, I left a blue tape so you could see where the string run was before. And now you can see that the string run is from this blue tape right here to this yellow one here. So it's only about an inch now. So you got that shorter string run on the outside. So with this second application of creating a tie-off hole, you can see that by reducing the string run here, it does help to reduce the amount of tension loss on the last string. And also, the shorter the string run, the better looking string job. In this video, I explained various methods for tying off the last string, and I demonstrated how to create a tie-off hole and why it can be helpful in 3 ways. I want to thank those who participated in my poll and my colleagues at IART, which helped me create this video. And if you learned something in return, please comment below. Thanks for watching, happy stringing, and let your strings play.